over Christmas, New Year's, 1966 into early 1967, and he makes his way over to London and then to Brussels, Belgium, and he goes into a hotel asking about how he can join a group called Commando. It's a mercenary unit, and he eventually gets recruited into this Congo mercenary group over fighting in the Congo, and he goes through really rigorous training there. Of course, it's nothing to him because he is a super soldier. He is like Rambo. He can do it all. I mean, weapons, no problem. And he eventually gets caught because the CIA finds out that he's down there, and they don't want Ted Braden down there fighting in the Congo because he's one of their assets. So his colonel over there in the mercenary unit rats him out to the FBI, and the FBI come down and apprehend him. They point guns at him. They put him in a room, and they interrogate him for 3 days. They strip him naked, make him recount. It's where have you been? Where did you go after you left Vietnam? All this kind of stuff. And they eventually fly him back to the United States, and he's imprisoned in Fort Dix. And that's where Hank Birch encounters Ted Braden. So Hank goes into where they're confining Ted Braden, and he remembers coming onto that duty when Braden had already been put into a cell. And he said Braden had a TV set in his cell. And a military prison. That's pretty unusual. He's like, why does this guy have a TV in his cell? It's 1967, and he's got a TV. He was also smoking a cigar with a wood filter, which is a big no-no.
Let me stop you for a second. When he was fighting in the Congo, which side was he fighting on, the left or the U.S. allies?
Actually, the CIA controlled both sides.
Okay.
Equally. And it was all about, optics to them, because the whole thing was eventually the CIA is going to come over, and he talks about this in detail in that article Braden does. And, just says that the CIA controls everything over there. The ground operations, the CIA controls both sides of the fight. So eventually when that settles out, they'll just come in and, exert their will on everything. But he said the CIA equally controlled both sides.
Yeah, because Ramparts was a leftist magazine.
Yes.
And so he was sympathetic with the left.
Don Duncan was for sure. I think Braden went out to the highest bidder.
Okay.
I think he was all about the money. He didn't care who it was. He would fight anybody if you paid him a few more dollars.
Okay, so my jaw was kind of dropping there for a while, but now we take us back to the jail cell where he's sitting there with the cigar and the TV set. And by the way, it wasn't that common to have a TV set in 1967. Not everybody had it by then,
Yeah. I mean, and he's got one in his jail cell.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And he's got a cigar with a filter on it, and it's highly unusual because those were strictly forbidden, even cigarettes with filters, because the inmates would stop up the toilets with them, and they were just a major hassle. So it was a huge no-no. So Hank encounters this guy and thinks, what's the deal with this guy? I mean, is he like a general? And he wasn't. And if you met Ted Braden, at the time, you would assume he was at least a colonel or a college professor. Al told me this because he was so meticulous about his dress. He was his boots were shined. He would put on the nicest clothes he could. When he wasn't wearing a uniform, he would be wearing, a sport coat. He kept himself in top physical condition. He did like 150 push-ups every morning. He had a flat board that he'd do push-ups on in Vietnam. And then if he didn't have it, he'd improvise. He'd do pull-ups. I mean, he always kept himself in top physical shape, even in his mid-40s, which was something else that ties him into D.B. Cooper. But Hank said, "What is going on with this guy?" And he remembers the first time he saw Ted Braden, he was marveled at how he had this stuff, and no one knew why. And Braden wouldn't even tell him why. And Braden looked at Hank and said, "Don't worry, sir. This is all going to work out." He knew he was going to get off.
Yeah.
So it finally came the day for Ted Braden's court-martial. And there was a call, like an hour before he was due to be court-martialed. And there was a call from, I think his name was William Johnson, who was the head of, one of the top guys in the entire military, calls down over Ted Braden and says, we're not going to have that court-martial for him today. And he says, well, why? And he says, there's not enough MPs on base to secure the courtroom. And that was the excuse. He said, are you kidding? This is Fort Dix. I'm looking out the window. There's MPs everywhere. He said, that's what I'm telling you. He's being released. And he's like, are you kidding? This guy went, he deserted from Vietnam. and you're letting him out? And they did. They let Ted Braden out. And back then, they were lining up everybody that was getting released that day, and you're supposed to line up by rank. And they had Braden in front of people that far outranked him. He was in the front of the line. And they offered him a general discharge, which was just a step below an honorable discharge. And, of course, Braden balked at it. I mean, you would think he would take that with flying color, just say, oh, thank God. I mean, this is a great deal. I mean, it's not even going to really hurt his record too bad. It was, a general discharge after desertion. That's unheard of. And Braden balked at it. And he said, not only do I want an honorable discharge, but I want my wristwatch back.
Wow.
And because he had a special wristwatch that I think it was some kind of CIA watch. They had an altimeter on it. It wasn't like an heirloom, but it was some special watch. That's all I know and all Hank knows. But Braden said, I am not taking this deal until I get that watch back. And he was sitting on it, like trying to play, chicken with him over that watch. I mean, they were like, are you crazy? We're going to, we can throw you in jail for years and years for what you did. And we're going to give you a general discharge and you're holding out over a wristwatch? I mean, this is how he was. But he eventually never got the watch back. But he signed, took the general, and they said, you could never, ever join the military again. You're done. We don't want to see you anymore. And that's it. After he got let out of Fort Dix in I think it was mid 1967 at that point.
That's a good time. This is a good time to take a commercial break. We went over time because Drew over here is some storyteller, bro. I got to tell you, man. And every detail. Every detail's on the tip of your tongue, man. Hey, let's live this work. Drew Hurst Beeson we're talking to. The book is called Paratrooper of Fortune. Paratrooper of Fortune, the story of Ted B. Braden, Vietnam Commando, CI Operative, Congo Mercenary, and just maybe D.B. Cooper. Now, Mr. Breeson here, you could find him at drewbreesonbooks.com. It's spelled B-E-E-S-O-N. There's no R, by the way. It's Drew Hurst Beeson. Have I been doing that the whole show?
No.
Okay, good. And his YouTube channel, too, as well, is Drew Beeson, B-E-S-O-N. We'll be right back with more of the story of the Paratrooper of Fortune after these messages. Fascinating story. And now a word from our sponsors.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
Thank you so much for listening to the Opperman Report. I want to welcome all our new listeners at WWPR 1490 AM in the Tampa Bay area. We're brand new down here. We're getting a nice warm welcome. We have great advertising opportunities for local sponsors, local businesses, but also international websites and international companies too on our other stations in California, Nevada, Utah, and on the internet worldwide. But down here in Tampa Bay, Florida, we have some great opportunities for you to come in and get very, very affordable advertising rates. Get a hold of me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and we'll cut you a good deal. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. An aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an aquadam can do the job. An aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're talking today with the author of the book, Paratrooper of Fortune, the story of Ted B. Braden, Vietnam Commando, CIA Operative, Congo Mercenary, and just maybe D.B. Cooper. Our guest is author Drew Hurst Beeson, and you could find him on his YouTube channel, which is Drew Hurst Beeson, and his website with all of his books, because we're going to have him come back and talk about these other books. I'm going to beg him to come back, is Drew Beeson books.com, and Beeson is spelled with two E's, Beeson. So, Mr. Beeson, where do we leave off in our story? Our hero was in jail, sitting there, and they let him out. No explanation yet. With a gold star, and a whole deal. So, what do you make of that?
He didn't get his watch. But he got out with it. He went AWOL. He deserted. He's a deserter. He was picked up for desertion, fighting in the Congo. He gets let out of Fort Dix with a general discharge, but doesn't get his watch back, and he balks at that. Why would this guy get let out? He knows somebody. Somebody's protecting him. He had this Johnson I mentioned that made the phone call. I think he was the highest guy in the military at that point, just under the commander-in-chief at the time. I think his name was maybe Harold K. Johnson was his name, that made the phone call. This is a high-up guy in the U.S. military intervening on this lower ranked guy, Ted Braden, that just got let out of jail for being a deserter. Why? I think it's because of that relationship with John Singlob, the general who was helped found the CIA. He was one of the founders of the CIA. John Singlob is a pretty controversial guy. He's still alive. He's 100 years old.
Well, let me ask you real quick, because you mentioned off the air that you think he was associated with Shockley, too, the guy from the Watergate guy?
I'm sure he was. Yeah, Shockley was in Vietnam. They were involved in some of that heroin running. They were going through Laos. There was, the friendlier, I don't know if they call it a tribe or something, that were, the natives of Laos, and they had a heroin trade. And they said, we'll help you along, get your guys and equipment along the Ho Chi Minh Trail a little better if you help us with our heroin. And they, the CIA had no qualms in doing that. I mean, they didn't even blink an eye at doing things like that. They had those guys doing the dirty work behind the scenes. And, Braden was one of those guys for sure. He told his guys in his unit, he said, if you ever see me in Saigon or on the black market, you don't know me. Don't come up to me. You don't know me. I mean, he was running the other side as much as he could for an extra buck. And if that meant risking his life, he didn't care. He was all about trying to make a little more money. And those guys knew he was a useful asset. Like I said, he would go to those CIA meetings. I think it was called the Seville Bar in Saigon. And he was always hanging out with the CIA types. And if you saw him, you would just assume he was one of them, because he was always, like I said, dressed like a colonel or a college professor, depending what day you saw him on. And he was not scared, and he would get, if you told him to go do something, hey, go kill this guy for us, if there's a few extra dollars in it, he was your man. And he would, he's running both sides of it. He did his day job, and then he would go running off with the CIA dudes trying to make extra money. He wasn't getting drunk at the bar or looking for women. He was always making money on the black market or doing side jobs.
Well, let me ask you this. At the time of the D.B. Cooper job, though, was he married? Did he have a girlfriend?
He was married. He was married to his third wife. Her name was Pauline. And she, you know, I told you I talked to her stepdaughter, or actually her daughter. It's her biological daughter. It was Ted Braden's youngest stepdaughter. And she told me, I asked her, I said, I said, did your mom think he was D.B. Cooper? And she said,